Well, Happy New Year. The
Wow.
Deuce is in the building, 2022, and we're back on the scene with community conversations. Yours truly, Joe Dupree, 100 BLK, the Black Station, doing it big down south, representing the state of Louisiana, New Orleans, but I'm in the city of Lafayette, Louisiana. Of course, representing that East Coast from WBLS, my brother from another mother, brother Fatim Muhammad. What's happening, my friend?
What's up? What's up, Joe? Happy New Year. The Deuces is here. 2K22. No, we're not a Madden game. And condolences and prayers to the Madden family and friends
Right,
there
right,
as we
right.
say that. And I just want to dedicate this show tonight to a brother who I'm wearing a championship jacket for the Panthers, the softball team I played for in Queens and in
Okay.
Brooklyn. And we had different names, Keystone, but the Panthers is we were a Black organization, and I'm wearing this. I know Joe's confusing this with the Steelers tonight, but this is for
Wait,
the
wait,
Panthers
wait.
tonight. But it ain't the Steelers here this year.
Hey,
It's steel. It's a steel color in there, but it ain't about the Steelers, brother. It's about the
I understand.
blue and white, baby. That's about that Dallas.
I understand. And this might be the year for the Cowboys. I know the Cowboy Nation is out there very happy, and they should be. They're divisional winners. It ain't over until the fat lady sing and until the Lombardi trophy is hoisted. So all I got to say is you better hope we don't make it to the playoffs, because if we do, things might get a little hairy carry. That's all I'm
Yeah. But
saying.
happy New Year to you, Joe, to your
Happy New
family,
Year to you
and
too.
happy New Year to our audience. And let's
Right.
rock and
Right.
roll.
So we are back. This is the first show of 2022. We took a 2-week hiatus to enjoy Christmas and New Year's with the family. How was your Christmas? How was your New Year's? While we're at the subject, brother
Everything
Fatim?
was pretty good, but the COVID thing has just risen its head. We are seeing something. I mean, I remember when you guys was on fire with the Delta, and we talked about it.
Right,
You got infected, but you was vaccinated. But this Omicron
right.
is a different animal, and I expect us to tackle that in the next coming weeks, because we saw, as of yesterday, 1 million United States folks that test positive for Omicron or COVID. And that's 1 million, breaking any record that has been
Wow.
set in the past with COVID. And let me just say this, that's just the folks that got tested.
Okay.
What about the folks that did not get tested? So
Whew.
we are seeing something. My younger daughter now is sitting at home. She's feeling better, but she had a couple of days that she had to call the ambulance to go to the emergency room. So it's
Wow.
real,
Wow.
bro. It's real.
It's real. It's real. So regardless of where you stand on what side of the track, vaccination or anti-vaccination, one thing you cannot deny is that there is a actual infection out there called COVID, and it is infecting folks. And you need to do whatever you feel you need to do to protect yourself, your loved ones, and those around you. Let me give you a quick rundown of what we're going to do tonight. The last show we did, we came in, we were going to try to wish everybody happy holidays, but we couldn't wish
Right.
everybody happy holidays. And you may say, why could we not have wished everybody happy holidays? Well, let me bring in a little something here and let you know why we couldn't wish people happy holidays. As you see on the screen, I'm about to play a video, and let me go ahead and make this video go live where we can hear what this is why we couldn't wish you happy holidays, because this occurred in Lafayette, Louisiana, with a city court judge, and it made national news. So we're going to play why our last show ended this way, and this is how our last show ended.
Oh, shit.
Watch.
Mom goes, why are the lights to your
When I
truck
pull
on?
up in the whip, they be saying, God
I'm like,
damn.
why are your lights on? They're like, pull up.
And mom's yelling, nigger, nigger.
No, kid, we have a nigger. It's a nigger. Like a roach.
Look, that's me.
So that's where we ended, my friends, with somebody saying the N word, like a roach. And we said, should something occur, we were going to come back and let you know. Well, something did occur on December the 31st, the last day of the year. Lafayette City Judge Michelle Odenette, who also made Saturday Night Live with the skit about using the N word, turned in her resignation. said that and we'll read the statement later, but she said I'm done, I'm gone. And we need to continue this conversation because to me the conversation doesn't end with her resignation. And one of the individuals, and I'm about to bring him in, very good friend of mine from the local area, bringing him into the stream right now from Keep 'em Talking Media, talk show host on KNEK's The Community Hour, my good friend Kenneth Boudreaux. How you doing, brother Boudreaux?
I am well, brother Joe. Thank you so much. I've been listening to you and brother Fatten, and I tell you, it's good to be here. I'm truly honored to be a guest on the first episode of your 2022 season. So just that in itself, I'm honored. But as I was sitting back and listening to you guys, I first want to say to Brother Fatten, I don't know if you all had a chance to come and play some softball down south. But there was a team called the Machines. Okay,
Right.
And you see that's it. You heard how you say that, Joe? Right. You understand?
Right.
You understand? The Black National Softball Championship is very familiar with the Machines from Louisiana. So big ups to you and the Panthers in your championships. And I understand what that P represents. But at the same time, Joe, I want to give a shout out to you. Pastor Rob put something out today. You should be proud. Your head coach has had 15 seasons of NFL football, and he has not had not one losing season.
Oh, yes, sir.
You know,
Yes, sir.
and you know, the NFL, I'm suspect of the NFL these days for various reasons, going back to Colin Kaepernick and their social justice positions. But at the end of the day, we're going to keep what's real, and we got to give a shout out to your coach. And I just cannot thank you guys enough to making sure that our community, Black and brown communities, people who look like us, continue to understand what's happening with this pandemic and this COVID-19 and these continued variations of this virus that continues to exist. And like Brother Fatten said, you know, this particular strand.
I got to help you. I got to help you, Kenneth. We just gonna call Brother Fatim Muhammad. Just call him Brother Muhammad. Call him Brother Muhammad.
He got it.
Everybody messes your name up. I always laugh about that. That's why I normally just say Brother Muhammad.
I get one pass.
You got it. He got it now, Fatim. That's cool.
But what I wanted to say was, as Brother Fatim has said,
yes, sir,
is that, you know, this is the most infectious strand that we have experienced. Not the most deadly,
correct,
but certainly the most infectious. And at the end of the day, we got to remain conscious of what's going on. So thank you all for continuing to make sure that we don't sleep on that issue as well. Because I often remind people, when this pandemic first hit, it was our communities who could not get the test. You remember, Joe, here in Lafayette, there was the bring your insurance card and $50 across town, not in town. Not in our community. And the Black community was the most infected population of all. So it is because of gentlemen like yourself, some work that we were able to do on our platforms and so many others that brought a light to this situation, to where we do have access to testing, we do have access to vaccinations. And now as we enter this mode of, before you could go to work, you must have a negative test. Before you could go to school, you must have a negative test. You know, whether it's 5 days, 10 days, or 15 days, it really doesn't matter. We need to have testing. We need to have access. We need to have access to vaccinations, and we need to encourage it for our best interest. That's just the bottom line. But again, I'm honored to be here, man. Looking forward to it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, one of the main reasons I invited you on, Brother Kenneth, is first of all, as a former elected official in city government in the state of Louisiana, which I tell people, two things you will never experience nowhere else in the world is government like it is in the state of Louisiana and being in the court system in Louisiana. Some people ask me, what do you mean? Aren't you just like everybody else? I said, well, we don't have counties here. We have things we call parishes. And one day I'll break it down and have some folks on here, and we'll explain to you the unique situation of the state of Louisiana. But at the at the end of or the middle of last month, of course, news broke out all over the place about a Lafayette City judge, former judge now, Michelle Odenette, who, during the process of being robbed or individual attempting to rob something from one of the vehicles that was at her home, winded up getting caught in a video gratuitously using the N-word and comparing an African American, the actual assailant, using the N-word and comparing that individual to a roach. Due to public outcry and a lot of traction from your show locally, and people reaching out to government officials and to the judiciary, the head judiciary, the Supreme Judiciary Council here in Louisiana, she winded up taking a leave of absence. Then she was suspended. And then she finally just said, you know what? I'm resigning. I want to thank you for all your hard work and how you brought to local people's attention that we've got to address these things. Now, here's the crazy thing. I can say it on my show, and I'll have no fear with it. Yeah, the rumor control, or somebody would say at a meeting I go to tomorrow, the street committee says that Dr. Odenette, who is former Judge Odenette's husband, made it crystal clear to folks, don't make me rat y'all out. We might have got recorded, but we ain't the only one talking like this.
Yeah,
Brother Kenneth.
Yeah. So that is the root of the issue here, is that we know that this is prevalent throughout our community and so many other communities throughout this country. She got caught. That's the whole issue. How she got caught, how the video got leaked, whether it was, someone within her family, her son, whether somehow some outlet got a hold of that. We don't know. I really don't care, to be quite honest with you, but she got caught. The problem is that this issue exists very broadly throughout communities. And unfortunately, we have not yet gotten to a point where we are comfortable and confident to challenge people, to question people, and to expose people on this exact issue. And I think what you're saying, what you're alluding to, is that her husband, Dr. Odenette, a local coroner, who in my opinion and the opinion of many others, should also, step down. What he's saying is that, if I go down, we all go down. How about that? If I go down, we all go down. And you know what? I'm okay with that as well. I could tell you, you introduced me as a former elected official, and I've often told you, and I've told so many others, the rules are different. We operate under a different standard. Number one is that our own community is not going to tolerate any foolishness, any sellout, any negligence on our part. Typically in other communities, they could get a pass. They often get a pass. We see what Trumpism have done. We see what so many other, ultra-conservative Republicans have done throughout this country. They could do some foolish stuff. They could sexually assault people. They could be vulgar. They could violate ethics, and they could have bad finances. They get a pass. Shit. If we mess around and be late on our mortgage, you got to go. We out. So the standard is different. I've always told people that, and I don't know if everyone has ever really understood it, but the standard is different. And I would like to hear what Dr. Odenette have to say. As a matter of fact, I suggest that you invite him to come on your show, and then I'll invite him to come on my show and give him an opportunity to expose and share with everyone exactly what it is that he's speaking about, because that is the only way we're going to ultimately get better, is that we got to put these things aside. We got to identify what is bad and get rid of that and start to support and grow what is good.
Well, a lot was said, Brother Kenneth. You're right on point, and Brother Joe, you're right on point with this. it's a lot, and so much I didn't write anything down, so I'm gonna just go off the top of my head. So the first thing is the repercussions of what she said, or what was said by the family. And again, you're right that if she went down, that he should go down also, in a sense of the repercussions. I go back to the Imus situation, where Imus, a radio broadcaster here in New York City, called the black female basketball team, nappy-headed hoes. And I remember Imus coming on Reverend Sharpton's show, and he was trying to plead his case. And as you just said, Kenneth, it's two rulers. There's two different rulers to measure the same inch. And when we tend to look at this, first of all, there needs to be repercussions. So the first thing is she did resign from her position. That's good. I mean, we didn't talk about the husband. That's something else is brought into the equation. But let's just deal, because we talked about it on our show, that she needs to step down, or she needs to be put down. And when I use the word put down, I'm talking about fired or go for a position. I'm not talking about no physical thing like that. But I'm saying that she needed to deal with that. That has happened. That has happened. And that's number one. Number two, just like Joe did, and I thought it was excellent, that Joe had a mixed panel of black folks and white folks. And I think we continue to stand up for our own liberation and stand up for ourselves. Some white folks will get it. Some white folks will never get it. But I thought that what makes it so interesting, when the two white folks that we had on, especially the young lady, and the reason why I said especially the young lady, because she didn't come with the degrees. The other gentleman was a professor. He does these kind of studies and African studies and things like that. And I commend him. But just to see someone else, they can make a difference in their own community. It goes back to what Malcolm said when the white woman said, "What can I do?" He said, "Nothing." Basically, you can't do nothing here, but you go back to your community and you make a difference. So what will help and make a difference if she is sincere in what she says, if she goes out there and if she's sincere and push forward a program to deal with racism. Systemic racism is real. And if we continue to let folks that don't look like us take control of our books, our education, and all this, then our story will never, ever be told. Number two, we sometimes are sorry. I'm going to bring Antonio Brown up, not to discuss his situation, but I'm bringing his name up for a reason. The internet was on fire about Antonio Brown walking off the field and throwing his shirt in the stands. But this here got in the news, and did the internet come on fire? So I think we as black folks, our priorities are in the wrong place. We need to get together. Because nobody else is going to take up our cause except ourselves. And if we don't do it strongly, then our causes will be lost.
Yeah. You know, Brother Fatim, I completely agree with what you're saying. Tonight we're going to talk about race and rules. I'm going to talk about a word that most folks hate to use. There was a time, that's how you met me, when I was in terrestrial radio in this actual area that I'm in right now, in Lafayette, Louisiana. That sometimes, because the higher powers who run radio don't look like you and I, the people who are the managers, the people who are the owners, the people who are the business managers, they're Caucasian. What they like about black radio is what black radio brings to them, which is revenue. So let's so I'm going to talk about coonism, black folks who hate on black folks. And Brother Kenneth brought up something on his show on Sunday, along with Marcus Allen, which is his show producer, about the new Jim Crowism, which Jim's got a cousin named James.
Yeah, so, James Crow Esquire. Yeah,
come on. So talk to me about, who is this James Crow Esquire, Brother Kenneth? Talk to it.
Well, when we think about Jim Crow and we think about going from slavery to Jim Crow to civil rights and to what we consider we have today, we could not always identify the enemy. We could not always identify who it is that was against us, who it is that was working to be the ultimate oppressor, who it is to hold their knee on our neck. Well, today that's not the case. It's no longer the Klan. It's no longer, sheets and hoods and facial coverings. It's 3-piece and 2-piece and 1-piece suits. It's people sitting on city councils. It's people sitting in judges' chairs and in judges' chambers. It's people with badges and guns. It's people who are principals and superintendents. The list goes on and on. Council members. People often have forgotten. I had a council member tell me as I was, dragging him about, I need to go back where I come from, and you remember that, Joe. So,
yes,
it's the Jim Crow is gone, and it's the James Crow Esquire that is right in our face. It is the person who we actually we'll go to lunch with. We are sharing break rooms with. We cubicles and they're in the office down the hall. That's James Crow Esquire, and we have trouble recognizing those folks because as Brother Fatin has said, we like this level of acceptance. We like this level of inclusion, and sometimes to our own detriment. So now that we have been delivered in some instances or accepted in some instances, we now turn a blind eye to what is real. And I'm concerned about that. And that's why when you indicated that you've been in meetings or you may be in a meeting tomorrow where the husband is taking the position of, y'all need to back off because if y'all push me to the edge, I'm taking everybody down. It is time for everybody to come down, Joe. The time is now. This is the thing. This is the thing. I'm gonna say this, then I'm gonna give up the mic. At the end of the day, Brother Fatin makes an excellent point. What does former Judge Ordonez do going forward to fix? To do some fixing, to really do some real change, to be a real change agent. Let me be totally clear. The effort that was put forth, I never had any confidence at all that Judge Ordonez or the Ordonez would voluntarily step down. And if we think for one moment that they have made a decision to do us right on behalf of the greater good, we more foolish than I thought.
Bingo.
What has happened is that the pressure that has been put on the balance of the city court where she was working, the Judge Saloon, the other judge in that court, the employees who are getting in the threatening phone calls, unfortunately, and other elected officials in and around Lafayette, in Southwest Louisiana in general, the impact that what she did is having on them in the greater community and the potential exposure that her husband is referring to is what pushed her out the door. Somebody had a conversation other than her attorney to say, look, you're going to have to take this one because what can come if this continues to go forward, what could come of this will be too exposing and too detrimental to our people and to our community. That's what has driven her out of office. Don't think for a moment she came to her senses and what we witnessed on that night all of a sudden has been a change agent to want to do something right.
Yeah.
We need to make sure we recognize that.
Hey, Joe, I just want to springboard off of something that Kenneth said. So Kenneth, you said that very well. You mentioned, Brother Kenneth, and I totally agree, but I just want to expound on it just a tad bit more. You talk about looking at us, about how we tend to like something. You mentioned about what exactly you mentioned in your conversation just now, like that we as a folk like
acceptance.
That's what I wanted to. There you go.
In inclusion. Yes, sir.
That's where I want to go.
Yes, sir.
The problem with that is, and I totally agree with you, is the like this acceptance of inclusion is that I look at it as comfort. Mm-hmm. If you go back to Jim Crow or slavery, the common denominator for us was pretty much even across the board. I mean, you had a couple of house Negroes that did the bidding of white folks that lived a little bit more comfortable, but that was a very small few compared to those that were in slavery and I call bondage or whatever, or if you want to come into Jim Crow, that had to live under those terrible conditions. Now, a lot of us Black folks have made it, have money, and a lot of them will donate some money, or you won't hear their voice, or they feel like they've made it to the point that they don't have to fight for the cause no more because they are in circles that they don't feel that they experience racism. But the same people that they associate with, as you said, because of systemic racism and how it's interwound in there, those are the folks that they are assimilating with that go home and talk to them and call them niggers. I ain't using the N-word tonight, niggers, because because you know why I use that word? Because at the end of the day, that's what they call us.
Right.
We get upset when they call us that.
Right.
But we don't get upset when we call each other that.
No.
At the end of the day. And when we do it in the music industry, and then the rappers think that they can get slick on us. And I don't put it all on the rappers because the Black exploitation did it too. But don't come telling me that it's different. Nigga. Stop the nonsense. And you got the pants hanging off your ass. So stop it. But we become so comfortable that we don't want to fight as a whole. So if it's not happening to me, if it's happening to my brother, it may not be happening to me. And Dr. King talked about that. He said if it happens to me indirectly, it will eventually happen to me directly.
That's right.
So why do I wait till it happens to my family? Why do I have to wait for a racist or a police officer or somebody that don't like the color of my skin to do something detrimental to me or my family for me to speak up? That's what I call coonism. Those brothers and sisters that don't speak up when you see this because it doesn't happen to you.
Come on.
Absolutely.
Now that was a great point. And let me chime in on all this. So family, as we move forward, and I know this is a difficult conversation. We've got people on here watching the stream, and let me get some things clear. Okay, first of all, the street committee is better known as hearsay. So hearsay said that, folks said, hey, you keep on trying to put my wife out there, I'm gonna put all y'all out there. Now that's hearsay. I'm gonna make that crystal clear to folks where folks won't be like, well, did you? No, I have not talked to. But let's get clear about a few things here. I see this on a regular basis. Where I'm at, other folks see it too. When we as African Americans, when we are people of color, all of a sudden graduate to the next level, as Brother Fatim was talking about, and all of a sudden we forget where we came from. So we got to address that, because that really is a big, huge problem. When all of a sudden, and listen, Kenneth has lost jobs. I've lost jobs. I know a list of folks that have lost jobs. Brother Fatim has lost jobs because we stood up for what was right, not what was black, but what was right. Now, hold on. Understand this. Mr. Charlie can't always be right.
Yeah. No,
just because he's white.
Yeah.
That used to be the saying. If you're white, you're right. If you're brown, stick around. If you're black, stay back. The hell with that.
Yeah.
So now I got to talk some truth to some folks that need to listen, because I'm sick and tired of good black folks who I know look just like me trying to tell me Mr. Charlie a good man. Mr. Charlie a good man. Hold on. If Mr. Charlie do something wrong, Mr. Charlie may be a good man, but what he did was wrong. And he needs accountability and responsibility for what he did. See, too many times we want to give a pass because Mr. Charlie putting some money in our pocket, or Mr. Charlie this, Mr. Charlie that. Oh, hell to the no. Because here's the problem. Just like, for example, many places, not only in Lafayette, have conservative churches that have private schools, that have powerhouse sports organizations that are full of African Americans. And the pastors in the pulpit sounded like Donald Trump. But when somebody check them on that, then Houston, there's a problem. When the truth about the matter is, we've got to stop selling ourselves short just to be a part of certain circles and certain groups of folks. We need to tell certain folk, you might be a good person, but if that's your view, me and you can't rock because that's a racist view. and the way you see it is not right, and I cannot associate myself with you with that type of view. I can't be good with folks who have some certain Trump views, because that's just not, to me, some Trump's views are so on the line of racism, I can't rock with you if that's your view.
Could I just jump in there real quick?
Jump in, brother.
I just want to say this, and real quick, I'm gonna bring in football for a minute, and that's why I stand up and applaud, and I give the brother a bell. I give Deion Sanders a bell, because he went to a school. I mean, you know, not only, if I'm not mistaken, the school he graduated was not a HBCU, correct?
Correct.
Right. So when he had a chance to go back and coach, they did not give him the opportunity. So now he's coaching at HBCU. Not only did he do good and turn that team to be a competitive team, he got the #1 pick this year, and now is putting more hype on HBCUs. So what Deion Sanders is, because Deion Sanders, he might have been flamboyant or whatever, but one thing you can't call him is stupid, and he is a leader. That's #1. #2, I come on here and I say I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan, and this is one of the hardest things that I'm swallowing, and I'm wrestling with this moving forward, because when the owner, Jimmy Jones, said that during the Colin Kaepernick situation, that he told the Cowboys members on that team that they couldn't kneel, they couldn't take a knee, and I don't know who I got more mad at. I really got more mad at the players, because see, if I'd have been on that team, I would have told him, I wouldn't have said nothing to him. I wouldn't have said nothing to him. Right. I would have kneeled. And then if you would have fined me, benched me, whatever you would have did, I would have told you, I ain't your boy. Right. I'm not your boy. See, that's what, at the end of the day, we got to get away from this. So I'm wrestling with this, because at the end of the day, I don't go to the Dallas Cowboy Stadium at the end of the day. So I don't put money into their pocket, but I think sometimes we got to take a stand, even if it's not a comfortable stand, but we got to take a stand to send a message that we will not tolerate this, and we will not subjugate ourselves to this nonsense.
Right. I couldn't agree with you more. And you know, Joe talked about what we were able to do here locally to make sure that we bring the proper amount of attention to this issue with the judge. Unfortunately, this was a situation where if we don't speak, nobody will. You know, we have people in office, we have people in position who remain silent on the issue, and that's something that I have not been able to do. And as Joe said, we've all sustained loss. All three of us here obviously have lost things from taking a position and taking a stand. But you know, Brother Fatin, you brought up Dr. King earlier, and I'm a study of Dr. King, and you know, I aspire to just be a inkling of what he has been able to bring to, you know, this world. But you know, I often tell people Dr. King had the opportunity to be a very wealthy man. Yes, he had the opportunity to have many gifts given and just demand whatever he wanted. And he chose against it. He chose to fight on behalf of individuals who could not fight for themselves. You know, whether it was the Montgomery bus boycott, whether it was the sanitation workers in Memphis, or whether it was generally civil rights anywhere, that's what Dr. King did. Somebody has to step up. You know, a friend of mine here talk about leaders lead. At some point, you know, those of us who choose to take a stand, we have to recognize this is in our DNA. This is who we are. We cannot run from it. We cannot avoid it. It's going to be what it's going to be. But I'll be honest with you. I would have loved to just covered it from a distance. I would have had no problem inviting people on to talk, letting them have access to the platforms and to the networks to get their message out. But no one was coming. And it seems to always come back to individuals like us who will not be afraid. I've had to tell many of my friends, if you don't understand my argument, maybe we shouldn't be friends. You know, because I'm arguing from a position, like Joe has said, it's not even a black or white position. It's a right and a wrong position.
That's right.
If you don't understand my plight and what I'm going through and my argument, I realize that's your choice. But maybe we just should not be friends if you don't understand what we're trying to achieve here. And I think that is the basis of what's happening here tonight.
Go ahead, Joe. I was going to say that
Kenneth,
there's a white. Go ahead, Joe.
And I'm gonna give it to you, Brother Fatim. Brother Kenneth, I give you a prime example. So, something that we see every day, and it thoroughly bothers me. We see where when conversations are given to women, especially women of color and men of color, that and you see me right here with the S on my chest, representing a very proud HBCU. I was rocking with HBCUs before they were popular.
All right.
Last time I checked, I got something hanging on my wall from an HBCU when HBCUs wasn't a thing in the news every day. So hold on. But here's what gets me. It's always told, get your education, do this, do that. When the truth about the matter is, many a time what we see every day is individuals who don't have as much education, who are not men and women of color, who wind up with better jobs. They wind up being your supervisor. They wind up, and then when you try to question how did they get there, well, they always come with the brand new rules. That's why I brought in and put on my paper race and rules. Okay, so first they tell you when a person is above you who doesn't look like you, well, the only way you can get there is go get your education. You go get your education, then they say, well, you ain't got enough time and experience. See, they always switch the rules. Either it's time and experience. Well, he doesn't have your education, but he has the time and the experience, or she has the time or experience. It's always making it that we are the best employees and we can never be the supervisor or the employer. And that's where we as a people need to wake up and start calling it like it is. Because it's sad to me when I run into folks that don't have as much education, can't do the job half as well as I can do, but they get the opportunity, they get the position, they get to move in where they need to move in because, let's call it what it is.
Corner office.
No, it's white privilege. It's
white privilege.
Let's call it what it is. So, then when I start, and then you said it on your show Sunday, and I say it all the time. Just because I'm pro-black don't mean I'm anti-white. I'm really pro-right. I'm pro what is right. And this is wrong. It's wrong when I see two individuals. When this really kills me. I see an individual at an African-American radio station with higher ratings. And when I say, well, what does the guy who runs the station, if it is an African-American, how much does he make a year? And they say, oh, he makes $45,000 a year. Then I see a Caucasian running a station with lesser ratings. And I say, well, how much does he make a year? Oh, he makes 75. Well, where's the justification? One makes 45 and the other one makes 75. And then when I get to justification, it's always they always figure it out. Either he got more education, this is why, or he's got more time and experience. They always flip it to make it seem like we can justify why we pay you less. No, you can't. The truth about the matter is you're not going to pay me what I'm worth.
Right.
Yeah. Let me just say this, Joe. Thank you for that, Joe, because right on point. As we break this down, and Joe was passionate about what he said, I start to look at different folks. And when I use that different folks, I look at it like if we had a conversation with white folks, sometimes because of our color of our skin or as soon as we open our mouth, prejudice jumps in there, meaning that people prejudge. There's a difference between a person being prejudiced and a person being racist.
Come on, preach on.
Prejudice is two words. Pre means before, and judge. Prejudge, judge before you have any knowledge about the person or whatever. So what happens is you see somebody up there speaking and he or she is black. The first thing is, oh, I don't want to hear this racist stuff. So I was looking up on my phone and I see this on Facebook a lot. This educator, she's 88 years old. Her name is Jane Elliott. I've seen a couple of people who promoted this, her speaking out on things. And I've seen her speak to white audiences. She's a white woman. And the first thing is the emotion and the adrenaline is taken out of the air. Because when we become emotional, we're sitting up, we don't hear everything because we already anticipating what we want to say or what we want to think. But I listened to Jane Elliott and asked an audience of white folks a question. And she said, have you ever been through something that a black person, she gave an example. And she said, anybody in this room, please raise your hand. And no one raised their hand, the white audience. She said, I'm going to ask this question again. And when she asked the question again, no white person raised their hand. And then she said, see, then you do not understand what black folks are going through. And that's why I'm saying that to get to some of these quote unquote white folks that call them good white folks, if they really mean that, then they would listen.
Yeah.
And they would have open dialogue. But a lot of them, for whatever reason, you got to realize we all are brought up in a certain way. I remember somebody told me, I don't watch Archie Bunker. And I said, why don't you watch Archie Bunker? Oh, he's a racist. I said, no. I said, they got Archie Bunker, we got Sanford and Son. It's a balance here.
Yeah.
If they had Archie Bunker and we had Archie Bunker and we didn't have the Jeffersons or we didn't have something to counter that in the 70s, I could see that. But we had something where Archie Bunker was saying something from a white perspective. Red Fox, was saying something from the black perspective. George Jefferson was saying something from the black perspective. Mm-hmm. So what it allowed us to do is to go into the black family, and it allowed us to go into the white family and got a chance to see how they interact. And when you get a chance to see how people interact, then you get a chance how they think. And if you get people that are sincere, that listens and realize we have different backgrounds, but we're from the human family, I think that's a start. But at the end of the day, I'll be honest with you, fellas, I can't change anyone's heart. At the end of the day, the only thing I can do is express it and put it on the table. But if I got to continue to explain George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, then I'm wasting my time. I'll help you out of the quicksand, but damn if I'm gonna let you pull me in the quicksand.
Look, and Brother Fatin makes a good point, and I'm gonna just piggyback on that just for a second. Again, and it also goes to what you said, Joe. It's not about, pro-black doesn't mean anti-white. Yep. We have always, and we continue to accept white sisters and brothers as our friends. I mean, I have numerous, unlimited number of white brothers and sisters that I call friends, and I literally love them. I would do anything for them. The challenge has been for them to echo that same sentiment in the reverse. And it has been more difficult for them to publicly state it like I could state it. That's number one. Number two, part of our challenge is the fact that when we take a position, when we do something very merited, something on point, it is often undermined by someone else because we still have that crab mentality. We are still trying to be top Negro. We are still trying to be chief of minority affairs. We don't want to do what's right. We want, and it goes back to what I said earlier that Brother Fatin talked about, is that we really enjoy this acceptance and this inclusion in more from outside than we do from within. Now, I can't explain that. I don't know what that is because I'm not familiar with it and I've never experienced it. I'm just driven by doing what's right. And like Brother Fatin, and I know we echo on a lot of what each other is saying, but hey, if we're that much similar, so be it. If I got to continue to explain these incidents, these tragedies, these murders, these killings, these shootings, if I got to continue to explain to you why it makes me feel the way it makes me feel, we really have a very, very serious problem. I should not have to do that. I should not have to, and the thing about Floyd, and I'm going to say this, Floyd was the first time that we actually had exactly what Brother Fatin is saying is needed. It was the first time that officers called another officer out and said he was wrong. It was the first time that whites called out a white individual and said he was wrong. And that is why we got the results we had. It wasn't because of the outcry of the Black community or the African-American community. And that's what I've said here. Right here in Lafayette, any successes, any progresses that we have made hasn't been because all of a sudden they're hearing our cry. Is that the discomfort among members of their own community have gotten to the point where they have said, this is wrong. And we must do something about it. And that comes about by having individuals like us and others. There are others who have taken a strong position in stance and said, enough is enough. And either this thing is going to be fixed. And as the common historical phrase has been, no justice, no peace. Right. And let me clarify that. I'm not talking about peace that I want to go burn something down. The peace is you're not going to become comfortable in that space.
Come on.
That we're going to continue to address it and talk about it and press on it until you resign. That's what happened with Ordonez. Yeah. There was no justice, no peace. It wasn't about going riot. It wasn't about even a protest at this point. It was about bringing a level of attention to where any reasonable person would say she needs to go. And we saw some of that come out. That's what drove her out. It wasn't Kenneth Boudreaux or Joe Dupree or any other Black media or Black activist or Black advocate. It was internal from the feeling that was received by a reasonable person. And we got to capitalize on that. We got to do something on that. And I don't know if you want to respond, but I want to go back to something else. Yeah, I'm going to listen to this, but if you don't mind, I want to return back to the N-word. I really need to address that because I think there is something that we are not doing that is going to need to be done if we want to ultimately get the results that we want. But before we do that, let's finish this component, this portion right here.
All right. So two things. When you talked about first, and you said a lot, Brother Kenneth, right on point. I go back to Dr. King. You talked about, and I understand about, and Dr. King criticized those folks about want to be in that head person and forgetting about everybody else, as you talked about the crabs in the barrel. Mm-hmm. And Dr. King talked about that through with his speech, The Drum Major Instinct.
Yeah.
That in The Drum Major Instinct, he talked about there's nothing wrong with being first in kindness. It's nothing wrong with being that best street sweeper, being the best in whatever you do. But at the end of the day, not pushing down the next brother or sister, just being the best at whatever you do. It's okay, but do not pull your brother and sister down. Yeah. That's it. As you talked about no justice and no peace, it's different forms of that. And I do agree that, burning down our own community, then if Walgreens or CVS is burnt down in our community, where do our folks that have diabetes or high blood pressure or whatever need to get their medicine? They can't go get it from their neighborhood, or they got to travel outside of their neighborhood. So burning down your community is not the answer. But what I am saying is I was part of a campaign back in the 80s after brother, I can't call his first name, Griffin was killed on the Belt Parkway out of Howard Beach here in New York. And activists came together in New York City, and we did a day of outrage. And we made people uncomfortable. We didn't burn anything down. You know what we did? We shut the bridges down.
All right.
We sat between Manhattan Bridge and the Brooklyn Bridge. When the cops came and arrested one group, another group had next. So we went down to the train stop. We pulled the emergency cord. If you remember the story, Reverend Sharpton was on the next other line. Him and some pastors jumped in the train tracks. We stopped New York City during the evening rush hour from moving. That means folks that were not part of, didn't know what was going on, to the folks that knew what was going on. We made them uncomfortable, and we were sending a message. We will continue. We will continue to make you feel uncomfortable until you start to right some of these wrongs. Did it stop all incidents? No. We've had other incidents from there. We had Amadou Diallo. We had Sean Bell. We had, of course, the Yusuf Hawkins piece where where Reverend Sharpton, I have to give him credit, and disclaimer, I produced 2 national shows with Reverend Sharpton, and I've been working with Reverend Sharpton for 30 years. But what Reverend Sharpton was saying, that white folks in New York City was saying they was not as bad as white folks in the South. And Reverend Sharpton said, I don't think that's true. So that's why we started to march in Bensonhurst. And the first time we marched in Bensonhurst, they threw watermelons at us. They did this. Reverend Sharpton turned to me and said, Fatina, I don't even know if we're going to get out of here alive, because we didn't even have enough police to protect us between that. But the message to send, the message that was sent the same way what Dr. King did with the water hoses and the dog on those marches is and then send a message to the Kennedy brothers at that particular time, as in Bensonhurst, was that you're starting to see that this racist behavior in a progressive town like New York City does exist.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what we need, Joe, if I could,
Go ahead.
This is very quick, because it's just a reference, especially for all those who are on the feed. What I suggest, and what I hope, what my prayer is that we develop the conscience of Claudette Colvin. And many have seen recently.
They don't even know, some don't even know who she is today.
Exactly. And I'm
on that, please.
Claudette was the 15-year-old who was arrested for not giving up her seat on a bus in Montgomery before Rosa Parks.
That's correct.
And I've heard her speak, and this is why I'm saying we need to adopt that. She is totally okay. There was some decisions made based on the tone of her skin, her status as a potential, as a soon-to-be mother.
Correct.
And so many other things that the NAACP and the Legal Defense Fund said would be detrimental to the cause. And she was willing to take a step back, not create issue, not create turmoil, not fight for that limelight that we're speaking about, not for the greater good. And I just needed to say that, because I think that's what Brother Fatim was just saying, is that we need more people who's willing to play their position. We've talked about that here, Joe. Playing your position. I tell people is that, yeah, I know everybody like Brady and Breeze and whoever else is some great quarterbacks, and Dak and the guy in Kansas City, the brother in Kansas City. I know everybody like it, but them guys are nothing without good tackles on the right and on the left. Your position is of the greatest value if you play it, if you want to win a title, if you want a Super Bowl, if you want a championship. Claudette played her position. She was willing to take that step back. And I think that's what we just said collectively, is that if everyone would be willing to play their part for the greater good, we would find better results in our causes.
Exactly.
And that is it in a nutshell. You know, as we wrap up this part and move on to the last part of the show, you know, of course, the show started off with us talking about the resignation of Judge Odinette. We talked about race and rules. Sometimes in this thing that some folks don't like us to bring up race. They like to say you're race baiting. You're all of a sudden, you know, you're trying to put me in a position where I appear to be a racist. No, see, right and wrong. See, that's why I don't use the word. See, when I use race, I use it in the proper connotation. It's about right and wrong. First of all, if we both work in the same job, but you making $10,000 more than I'm making, something's wrong. Something's terribly wrong. See, we need to talk about social economical disparities. We want to always see folks don't. I'm like, wait a minute. So you telling me you doing the same job I'm doing, but you getting paid more? Well, I live on this side of town and I live in this. Oh, wait a minute. But we doing the same job. Hold on. And then when you see people, when all of a sudden things get quantitated in certain areas, hold up. We got to wake up, family. We're getting ready to get to the anniversary in 2 days of January the 6th. Some people want to talk about it. Some people don't believe it even happened. Some people say that was just a peaceful movement of individuals. And see, this is what gets me. When you think about we just finished talking about Whittenhouse. Remember when we talked about Whittenhouse?
Yeah.
You know, so he ran to a place where he saw imminent danger. Hold it. These folk rioting, these folk doing this, these folk doing that. I need to go protect people's properties and people's lives. But when we bring up January the 6th, no. See, that once again, here's what gets me. If I speak passionately, I'm an angry black man.
Yeah.
But if you're not black and you start speaking like this, you hold it. Didn't they just suspend somebody's Twitter account? What's the girl's name? Marjorie Green.
Green.
Yeah. So hold it. Marjorie Green. If Marjorie Green sounded like me right now, and she was talking, and all of a sudden she wouldn't be an angry white woman. She would be somebody talking about truth and justice and defending the First Amendment right, because she's trying to expose big tech and she's trying to expose all these wrong folks. But when I say the same thing she say from a Afrocentric perspective, all of a sudden I'm an angry black man. I'm race baiting. I got 50 million issues. You got to watch him. He public enemy number one.
And they try
Joe,
to on our
the thing
sisters.
about it is,
I just want to say this real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
And then I'll let you run the kid. And I'm not going to add much. I'm just going to say that how they play us against each other, and how they at first during the 60s and 70s or before that was the angry black man.
Yeah.
And then I remember a former First Lady, Michelle Obama, that if she would have taken a certain position or certain role, now all of a sudden our sisters, our black women, became angry black women. And they play that. Or that's the double standard out here, and they get away with that. That's why it's so important to have these platforms. But when it comes down to major media, when you don't have equal balance, equity, when it comes to equity, Joe, you alluded to that when you talked about doing the same job but being of a different race and not or different gender. You didn't mention that part, right? But getting paid less. Equity, equity. So how they tend to do that and play that against us and play it against the society. They know what they're doing. And one thing, Kenneth, before you go, is something that you mentioned, and you talked about how it's done subtly with so many people, doctors, lawyers, political leaders. That's the subtle thing. What about how they've gotten so bold that they're going back to the Jim Crow era, and they're blatant now? Look at the Senate. Look at the Republicans. They vote against any and everything that seems to be right to vote on a party line.
That's right.
Because they are looking out for each other. Don't think that they wouldn't get rid of the filibuster if it would give them an edge. Not about it being the right thing to do because of what the Republican houses, legislation houses across the country are doing to voting rights, but if it gave the Republicans an edge, they would remove the filibuster. But they don't want to remove the filibuster now because they know that right now with gerrymandering and how things are stacked against us, that it moves into their favor. And if and understand this, folks, black folks don't want to vote. White folks do vote because they understand the game. And if we don't understand the game, then we lose at the game. Go ahead, Brother Kenneth. Sorry.
Absolutely. No. Oh, man, look, I could have sat here and listened the whole time, but I want to give a homework assignment. I'm often known for giving assignments, and you bring something up that's very, very real. Joe started it. You finished it. I'm going to make the assignment. I need people to go look up the difference between equity and equality. That's two different things. Two different things. I need you to look that up, and I need you to understand it. And like I taught my audience on this past Sunday, we're going to go back to grammar school. First, I want you to say the word, okay? Then I want you to spell the word. And then I want you to define the word. And then finally, I want you to use it properly in a sentence. That's how we get to understand some things. You need to know the difference between equity and equality. You talked about also what happened to First Lady Michelle Obama and how things have changed. They will become judgmental on how people wear their hair, how they wear their clothes, if you could allow enough arm out, depending on what type of lady you are. The standard constantly changes. It changes, Joe, based on creating an advantage for
Correct.
themselves. It's just like you said. The minute we match them educationally, then they go to experience. The minute we match them experience, then we go to heritage. The minute we match them heritage-wise, they reverted back to education. The game will continue to change until enough people start fighting for what's right. So I wanted to go back, and I have to revisit it because Brother Fatin talked about the N-word early on. And I'm actually looking for some direction, to be quite honest with you. Y'all talked about how the word is interpreted. Well, let me share with you what we talked about. And I think, Joe, this is one of the reasons you wanted me to be here tonight.
Correct.
Is that, one of the things I warned people about is that we have been challenged. And to be honest with you, especially when the NAACP had the funeral and buried the word, that derived from the fact that America convinced us that the word was being overused. Any and every time something happened, some people chose to immediately run to the word racist. That's a racist. And I appreciate what Brother Fatin has said, because there's a significant distinction between being a racist and being prejudiced. And I'm going to bring a third thing into it, in discriminating against someone. Discriminating against someone, being prejudiced against someone, and being a racist towards someone is three different categories. Again, people, we got to go to the dictionary. We got to go to the learning and understand what we're dealing with, because when we don't properly apply something, it will immediately be taken and used against us. That is why they got something called the race card and race baiting. And Joe talked about both of them, and we defined that for you this past weekend. Well, we talked about the race card, and we compared it to a deck of cards. And we know that when you open a new deck of cards, there might be 52 cards that you play with, but there are more cards than that in the deck.
Come on.
Okay? They removed the jokers. That's what we talked about. They immediately removed the jokers from the deck. They don't let you play with the joker. So what I tell people is that we got to go to the gambler's mentality and make it simple and easy to understand. And that is, we're playing the hand that we were dealt. I am not playing the race card, and I don't think anyone necessarily plays the race card. But if race becomes the issue, we cannot be afraid to play it. We cannot be afraid to address it. And that's what has happened to some of Black America, is that we have become so complacent and we have become so jive turkey-ish that we don't want to address issues that need to be addressed. So now we see the evolution yet again. And it's not the worst of things to bring up race, but we got to realize that you could talk race without being a racist. And especially to my white brothers and sisters, it's important that you understand that. Don't be fearful of the conversation. Let's have the conversation, because as Brother Fatin said earlier, that's the only chance we have of coming out of this thing. If we try to avoid it, we'll never get anywhere. So I need people to understand, when they say the race card, the hand that was dealt to us is what is being played. And like Joe said, same education, same position, same time on the job, but yet you getting $10,000 more than me, and the only difference that exists is our skin tone, or the box that identifies race. That's the race card, family. Yeah. That ain't something we asked for. That's all that existed. I couldn't say education because we both college educated. I couldn't say 10 years experience because we got hired together. The only thing you gave me was race. That's race part. The second thing on race that I want to talk about is race baiting. And I educated people on that, and I need people to understand. Well, I don't see a problem with baiting. Now, Brother Fatin, I don't know how much he hunt, fish, or trap, but Joe and I live in a state that they like to call a gamesman state. That's all. So guess what? I receive it. I don't have a problem with bait, because if you want to catch something, you gotta bait it. We put bait in the water to catch the greatest of fish. We put shiners. They got something called a shiner. That thing will glow and move and wiggle on its own to attract that fish. So I'm not going to allow you to say that race baiting is a bad thing, When I come from a gamesman state, I need to put something out there to know exactly who you are. Because if I can't identify you, I'll never know how to deal with you. So we're not going to allow race baiting to be a bad thing. So Joe, to your credit for bringing these issues up, race baiting, the race card, or anything, we just cannot be afraid to have the conversation. We cannot be pushed back against to the degree that we refuse to talk about it. Our greatest progress has been made, and that's basically what civil rights was. It's to have the conversation, address the issue, and do the work, even if it makes you uncomfortable. And that's what we're doing here today. And regardless of what anybody felt, our position was with former Judge Michelle O'Donnell, it had to happen. It needed to happen. It became obvious that only certain people was willing to do it. And because it was done, we got the results, partial results of what needed to happen in order for us to move forward for hopefully better days. Period.
Let me just jump in here. I mean, I'm just ringing the bell. When I ring that bell, brother, take a breather, because you dropped some bombs. Two things I want to say, Joe, but I'm gonna put something out here to you both, and this is important. The first thing I'm gonna just say, Brother Kenneth gave a homework assignment, and I applaud that. I like that. But, to get 100 on that homework assignment and to get that gold star, to get that 2 gold stars from me, you ain't going to impress me with just looking up the word. Go to get an etymology dictionary and find out where the root word and where it comes from.
Yes,
because
sir.
that's how you start to find out how things work out here. But the main point I want to say is something that Kenneth said, and Kenneth, you brought part one. Now, Joe and Kenneth, because I'm throwing this to you both. You talked about the deck of cards and the hand that is dealt with us. This is very important. The hand that is dealt to us, and we deal with it. Maybe we really have to have a conversation about the N-word. And the reason why, before we get into it, we know what it meant, we know what it was done. But let's go back to when our folks were slaves. The slave master ate high on the pig and threw the scraps to the slaves, right? The hand that they was dealt with. They came down with chitlins, pig feet, pig ears. They made that into a delicacy. Yes, correct? They dealt with what they had, and they made it work for them. They also was called nigger and this and that. Something that was dealt to them. Black folks turned that around and made it something that was impressionable for them. That's why I say to some of the older folks, don't forget, don't jump on the rappers, because I learned the word nigger from in my household. I learned it from the Black exploitation movies. Oh, I won't even use the word exploitation movie because that's the name they gave to it. To our Black movies back then that told our stories.
Which way is up?
Exactly. Come on. Black, give me 5 on the black hand side.
Dolomite.
What's up going on, my nigga? And even in Red Fox, when Aunt Esther was told that Lamont wasn't so-and-so son, and she said, nigga, so-and-so. What I'm trying to say is it's the hand we're dealt with. And what we do as a people, sometimes we turn that pain around and make it, not to say it's right, but we got to conversate about it.
I agree.
I even see Black women. I see more white women, but I ain't talking about white women today. Black women, when a Black man would call her a bitch, that was taboo. But now you're seeing more Black women. Hey, that's my bitch here, man. You see, so what I'm saying is there's a mindset here that we need to discuss. We cannot just say stop using a word, because it's been in our DNA to take things that has been against us to turn it around to make it work for us.
Yes, sir.
We need to have a conversation about that.
So Brother Fatim, Brother Kenneth, y'all are both, man, we really on point tonight. Brother Kenneth has a thing he calls overdrive. I just have one question, and it's to my brother Fatim. Be exact. If I remember right, Kenneth, I gave you that overdrive. I said, Kenneth, you ought to call that overdrive. But hold on, brother Fatim,
Yes, sir.
Do you have another show you have to do? Because I don't want to.
Nah, we're not. We off tonight, baby.
So we don't
we
get
can
off
ride.
until-
We riding right now, brother.
So I was reading something here, and I really think we need to address this when it comes down to the N word, to the B word, and to conversation generally. Listen, family, there's a big difference between right and wrong. Period. As a person, I wrote this, and I was going to put it. Actually, I'm going to put it out in the morning. If you trust no one, remember this. Now, remember what I'm about to say here. For those of you who don't trust nobody, and a lot of us don't really trust anybody, we act like we trust folk, but truly outside ourselves, and sometimes we barely trust ourselves.
Right.
We really don't trust nobody. So if you don't trust no one, remember this. Trust everybody. If you don't trust everybody to be themselves. But you might need to ask God to give you the sight to see them for their true self. Because many a times, I think the mistake we make is, and Brother Kenneth brings this up so many times on Sunday, and I encourage you to, for those of you who don't know about Brother Kenneth's show, he's on KNEK Magic 104.7. He's also on a social media platform, Keeping Talking Media, Live TV. I definitely say you go check this brother out. When it comes down to issues in our hometown, I used to be one of the guys Monday through Friday, and Kenneth would come and clean up on Sunday. I'm no longer Monday through Friday. I only come and do this on Tuesdays and Wednesdays on these lives. But thank God we still got a voice on terrestrial radio that addresses our issues. But what I want y'all to start understanding is, Brother Kenneth brings it up all the time. He said, man, we're one of the most forgiving and loving folks you'll ever meet. But in our forgiveness and in our loving, we can't take away truth. See, I ain't got a problem with you loving and forgiving, but guess what? I can't call a duck a snake, and I can't call a snake a duck. A duck is a duck, and a snake is a snake. And listen, like I said, if you don't trust nobody, trust this. A snake is going to be a snake. You treat a snake like a duck, and watch how a snake treats you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And let me say this.
Let me just say one thing real quick.
Yes, sir.
Kenneth.
Go ahead. Yes, sir.
The Chicken George syndrome. The Chicken George syndrome from the movie Roots. If you look back at Roots, he was Chicken George was a game. You know, he trained cocks, the cocks to fight,
Right.
and he was looked upon as being eventually Master's boy and going to be eventually free. But when there was a rebellion at another plantation, and the word was spreading that there was going to be more rebellions, then Massa put a gun in Chicken George's face and said, "You got it, nigga." And Chicken George said, "I got it now." So it's the Chicken George syndrome.
Yeah.
Trust folks to be themselves. I just wanted to add that Chicken George syndrome.
Right. So Brother Fatim brings up a great point on the issue of how we need to certainly have a discussion as it relates to the N word and how that word is used. Let me say this. History shows us that the word Cajun, for those of you who forget, the word Cajun at one time was considered as bad a word for white America as the N word is for Black America. And as Brother Fatim has identified, we know what Cajun represents today, and the economic effect of that and the embracing of that is one thing. The N word, however, unfortunately, was not able to grow to that point. But this is what I wanted to say. And this is what I want everybody to be very, very clear on. And if you want to run with something that I say tonight, this is what you need to run with. I personally am not going to allow anyone to take the N word when it is used by Richard Pryor or Cat Williams or Eddie Murphy in a comedy show, or when it is used by Tupac or Biggie Smalls or any other great historical rapper in an artistic view, and categorize it in the same way as a sitting judge in a court. We're not
Ring
going
the bell. Ring the bell. Ring the damn bell.
We're not going there.
That's right.
So for anybody who wants to say that, oh, well, why y'all making a big deal of it is blaring on the radio when you pull up to the store. Why you want to make a big deal of it, you call each other that. People, let me be clear. It's about context, it's about utilization, and it's about intent. Okay? And when a judge, and like I said earlier, when a judge, a school teacher, a principal, a city councilman, a mayor, a governor, anyone in a position of authority who has the ability to determine people's livelihood and their outcomes and their status, things like what Joe talked about earlier, who's going to get paid what in what position, it's not going to happen. But I'm not going to let you undermine this issue, as I agree with Brother Fatin that we got to have this conversation and try to put them all in one category with rappers, comedians, or even the utilization of the word within the community that is offended when it's used a certain way. Because just like Brother Fatin said, man, I'm loving this so much, guys. I'm going to forever be grateful for being here with you tonight. You know, when a woman, and ladies, let me tell you something. I love y'all to death. I respect y'all. Take this for what it is. This is a lesson. Don't, this is not me. This is a lesson.
Come on, Kenneth.
When a man calls a woman a bitch, we view that in one way.
That's right.
And when a man say that's my bitch, that's something totally different.
Come on.
That's just the way it is.
That's
when
right.
they say she a hoe, right, wrong. I'm giving a comparative analysis here. But when they say that I take possession of it, I love it, I want it, that's my, people see that totally different.
What about when they use it? When women use it amongst themselves?
Exactly.
That's what I said. That's the point I said.
We cannot look. My blanket, I threw it over there. I normally have a blanket on this chair from when I'm working late if I get a little cold. But we cannot put a single blanket over this issue. We have to put it in context. We have to categorize it. We have to stock it. We have to place it in the right section when we have this dialogue that Brother Fatin speaks about, and not allow someone to come say, well, y'all use the word. That's the next misconception. We don't all use the word. We don't all have the same level of appreciation. That's why I agree that this conversation needs to be had. Like Brother Fatin said, he learned in his home under the supervision of parents and TV shows and what was allowed to watch in that house. It's different for everybody. That does not give a pass for someone to take it and then create an intent and use it in a malicious fashion.
Come on.
So I need America, in particular white America, to understand that this is not about the word alone. It's about the utilization, the intent, the harm, the purpose. We have to get to that degree so that we could capture this thing and understand it. And
wow.
Joe, I hope that was appropriate, but that needed to get out.
That was appropriate. That was not only appropriate. UCI, I call it UCI, utilization, content, intent. I wrote it down. UCI.
Yes, sir.
Utilization, content, and intent. And I just want to say on the radio show that I do, I wasn't the host, I was producer at the time. Now I'm the host on the Open Line show on WBLS. We brought on our sister station, Hot 97. He might have been syndicated down in your area. I'm not sure, but it was called the Star and the Buck Wild Show. And Star made a statement when J-Lo came out and she used the word nigger in her song. So Star went on the air on his station, which was the hip hop station, and said, yo, I'm calling you out, J-Lo. You can't use that. Right. So I got to Star and I said, yo, Star, would you come on the Open Line show? He said, I'll be there. And he called out again. He said, when you say that word and we say that word, it doesn't have the same gravity. Yeah, we can have the conversation that maybe none of us should use the word, but it doesn't have the same context if you use that word outside of our community and we use that within our community.
Mhm.
And people didn't quite understand it, but the way Brother Kenneth broke it down just now, right
He broke
on
it.
time. You broke it down. And that's why I said we can't lump it. We can have a conversation all about it, but that word, the way it's utilized by other people, we could come to agreement that we could agree. Well, we could all come to agreement that maybe the word shouldn't be used, but we also come to agreement that the word is used in different contexts and it gets a pass at times with us.
That's right.
Right. And see, and that, my friends, is where I appreciate that, and we all don't have the luxury of, I've cried many a nights that folk haven't seen me. I've many a times wanted, Fatim, I've talked to you, man, I'm tired of doing 100 BLK. I'm tired of doing these podcasts, and you've always said, well, brother, it's yours. Do what you feel is best. But it's times like this that here's what I want to say. We've got to unify as a people. As Rhonda said, Rhonda Harrison, I love Rhonda. Rhonda said, Black people have to change the paradigm for the outcome of communities. For the greater good that Brother Kenneth brought up, that I talk about all the time, we've got to make a shift and learn how to love, grow, unite, and build together.
That's right.
Guess what? Brother Kenneth could live anywhere he wanted to on God's green earth. He lived in the hood.
That's right.
Just like me. So I tell folk all the time, here's, and once again, I want to bring this up to folks, and folks gonna be mad at me, but they always mad at me. We can't keep on trying to be like other folks on the other side of town. If we would get together and pull our resources together and use what God has given us, and I like to use that word because there's a few pastors that's done sent me some ugly texts that I'm going to have to address them one-on-one. I ain't going to hit you on my show. I'm going to see you face-to-face, partner, and I'm going to ask you, if what you just text me is how you really feel, let me ask you this. Then why are you in the hood? Why are you preaching? Because at the end of the day, we got to stop playing these games. If we would take our resources and come together and use what we got to get what we need, we would never have to leave the hood. The hood would be Wakanda.
Never.
But we too busy feeling like the Deion Sanders made y'all understand it. The Kool-Aid ain't better at Florida State. They got the same Kool-Aid at Jackson State University. And if you good at Florida State, you good at Jackson State. If you go into the pros at Florida State, you can go to the pros at Jackson State, Southern University, Grambling State, Hampton University, Howard University. If you good, damn it, you good, no matter where you at. But we got folk who happen to think the ice water just a little bit colder in somebody else's school just because it's being ran by somebody who don't look like you and I.
Yeah.
There you go, Joe. I just want to say this for my homework assignment.
Yeah.
My homework assignment, and it's not really a homework assignment because I really want you to do what Kenneth said. But one thing I want to say to Kenneth is, Kenneth, I got a guest for you, my brother, and a guest for this show too. And it's my cousin. We call him the Kingologist. And he's a student of Dr. King. When he got a chance to meet Martin King III, he floored them. He floored them because he said, my father inside out. And one of the things that I'm just going to say tonight is when you have heard in the past, because a lot of people look at Dr. King as being passive. Dr. King was a revolutionary.
Yes.
And he was a revolutionary. Yes, and not only that, you go back to Malcolm X. Malcolm X used the tactic of Dr. King when he surrounded that precinct, when that brother was beaten up inside by the police, when they needed medical attention. That was nonviolence protest right there. Right. That was a Dr. King tactic right there.
That's right.
But what I want folks to understand is that to understand Dr. King, you need to read Dr. King. Dr. King wrote several books. And for you to understand, don't let someone just tell you about them. Go out there and read them. But one thing that Dr. King said, and Kenneth, you understand this, and I'm not giving nobody a lesson tonight. When Dr. King say, you may not like your enemy, but you need to love your enemy.
Yeah.
And a lot of folks don't realize that. They look at the word love. Love has numerous different meanings.
That's
love,
right.
there's agape love, there's about 7 to 9 different types of meanings for love. And what Dr. King was not talking about that sentimental type of love. In a sense, he's talking about that love that won't weigh you down when you hate. Because when you hate, your enemy winds up bringing you down. You don't have to like you don't have to like your enemy. But when he says you love your enemy, means that you look above, you transcend above, and you don't let that pull you down, because that pulls and weighs you down. So my assignment is just to basically understand the different types of love. So if somebody say love your enemy, you will understand that there's different degrees of love out there. And it's not the sentimental love that Dr. King explained in some of his books, especially Where We Go From Here, Chaos of Community.
Amen. 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 I will close with this. Again, I want to first thank both of you, amazing, great, phenomenal gentlemen, for allowing me to spend some time with you tonight. And most importantly, as always, the two of you all know we are nothing without the audience. I want to thank all those who have tuned in tonight. And hopefully what you have witnessed here and what you have seen is going to be something that could motivate and encourage you to be the best version of yourself. You know, my theme in 2022, I don't do resolutions. One of the things we did with Keep 'em Talking Media Group in the community hour is we say, make 2022 all about you. Become the best version of yourself. Similar to like on the airplane when they say if we lose cabinet pressure, we use cabinet pressure, put your mask on first and then help the person sitting next to you. Improve yourself, make yourself the best version that you could be, you know, put fear in others by being the best that you could be and bringing your A game, and then you'll be better at helping others. I want to leave you with this. We talked about racism tonight. At least we tried to. We tried to get there, and I think we did touch on it. But I would be remiss if I didn't at least share with you that a lot of things exist because of the complement. And one of the things that we taught on this past weekend is that racism has some in-laws. They have some close relatives. They have some cousins. And the three I want to identify today is sexism, toneism, and classism. And if you think that you can address one without the other, or if you think that you could speak against one and try to support the other, I'm sorry to tell you, you cannot. So and we talked a little bit today about, you know, women and fair pay. That was a big issue over the last couple of years. Equal pay for equal work when it comes to women. We know there's all the issues out there as it relates to sexuality and things like that. All I'm here to tell you, I'm not here to preach to you. I'm not a preacher. I'm not ordained. I can't even recite scripture very well, to be quite honest with you. But I know that if you're going to participate in sexism, toneism, because I may be darker than you, or you may be lighter than me, or you think that you're better or more acceptable, or classism, something we talked about today, because you was able to cross over town and get on the other side of the river, the track, or the interstate. If you was able to get closer to that hospital and you like the fact that your power don't go down because you're so close to a hospital when the hurricane comes, whatever your classism is, you got a problem. This isn't just racism. Racism derives from these other isms, and that's the cousins to racism, no different than James Crow Esquire has become to Jim Crow. I thank you all for this time. I hope that I've shared something with you that has been beneficial, and I appreciate this opportunity to be with you tonight. Joe, Brother Fatim, you see that, Joe? I fixed it up. I messed it up in the first 5 minutes. And Brother Fatim, now, Joe, you didn't have my breath. Brother Fatim said he got it. He got it.
Hey,
Look,
hey,
5 minutes, I messed it up. In an hour and 20 minutes, I got it right.
Kenneth, I say this brother has always been one of the best men I've met and I've known since I've got to Lafayette, Louisiana. Brother Kenneth has been a true friend. I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it hadn't been for Brother Kenneth Boudreaux.
Thank you.
You know, and I'm gonna be real with you. It ain't no if and buts or maybes about it. You know, when I was released, fired from radio, the first person to reach out for me was Brother Kenneth Boudreaux, and through our friendship. Believe it or not, I'm older than Kenneth. He's better looking than me, but I'm older than Kenneth.
Yeah, Jeff. We
you
still got
know,
a little bit of hair up there, brother.
yeah. I might hold it, and Brother Fatim is older than me, and I'm done lived a rough life.
Yeah, you
but,
sure did.
but brother Kenneth had been a blessing, and I wouldn't be at the job I'm at today. He was one of the people when it was time for somebody to stand up. He was one of two people. Him and Captain Tony Ashley were the two individuals that said, "Man, you'd be a fool not to bring this man on board." So I have to publicly thank you for that, because see, that's our problem. Our problem too many times, we want to keep stuff private instead of giving people their roses while they publicly.
Joe, can I just tell you something? You know, in our community, you know what they say? They send one to get one, right?
Right.
But didn't Brother Fatim teach us today? You have to put that in context.
Come on.
Can one of us go get one of us for a
Come
good
on.
cause sometime?
Come on.
Does
Come
it have
on.
to be negative?
Come on.
You see, we hey man, I'm a winner. And I say that to the listeners. Let me put that in perspective, because I don't want people to say, "Oh Lord, look." I put things in context. I'm very humbled. Anybody who know me, but I believe in winning.
Right.
I believe in outworking my opponent, and that has been attributed to my success. I'm not going to be the dumbest person in the room. I always strive to be the smartest person in the room. Even if I don't achieve it, you heard what I said? I'm striving for it.
Right.
When you strive, you never stop. Okay? And all I'm saying is that when they say they send one to get one, it don't have to be negative, man.
Right.
And I'm honored. I saw Josh was on the link earlier, and so many others, man. It's about love, man. It's not about the individual. It's about the collective group, the collective assembly, man. That's all this is about.
And I didn't call Kenneth Boudreaux. Is that correct? I said it right. Okay. I said, oh, I didn't call his last name, but I got it. I just want to say thank you for not allowing me to be a walking dead man today. And what I mean is, I always tell people, if you didn't learn something today, you was dead today.
Yes, sir.
And I learned a lot. I'm always learning from Joe, but you are an asset. I am glad to know that there is somebody else that is on the radio doing what you're doing, and on social media platform that's doing this. This is so important. But thank you, man, because I learned a lot, and I wasn't dead today, man. You know, so thank you. And Joe, Joe, you've been slaying me, brother. You know, and with these guests, man. And you know, like you said, you're gonna have to borrow one of my guests. I'm gonna have to borrow this brother here, man. You know.
Hey, put him on the open lines. And
yes,
speaking of
which, will, brother
Kenneth, as we get ready to go, we're gonna let you have a final word. Let everybody know you can catch Brother Kenneth. I know you're doing Q at Large now. You're on Q95 in Lafayette. You can listen to them online at, I think it's krqq.com.
KRRQ. So let me put it like this, Joe, if you don't mind. And
go ahead.
Brother Roland Martin is deploying some things and rolling some things out. We have to say Black Media Matters. Dr. Chris Williams locally have been pitching that for quite some time. We see what Brother Roland Martin is doing. We've been seeing what Brother Joe is doing locally. Troy D is doing locally, and so many others. Now I have, Brother Fatim, and I'm going to hook up with him. People need to understand, one of the things that we always talk about is that it's from our perspective. There's a lot of media out there. And I have many friends in TV, radio, in print media, social media, the internet, who's doing some amazing work, male and female alike, African Americans in contemporary media settings. But what I often tell people is that there's only so many opportunities that we have to bring it from our perspective. And what you're seeing here tonight, in what you see in our individual platforms, tonight was a collective platform, but in our individual platforms is Black Media Matters. If anybody's interested in following me, you could look for Keep 'em Talking Media Group. My name is Kenneth Boudreaux. Multiple social media outlets, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. On Sundays at 11 o'clock a.m. Central Standard Time here in the Lafayette area, I'm on KNK Magic 104.7, the very popular #1 rated program called The Community Hour. On Saturday mornings at 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm on our hip hop station, where we're trying to, just inject our young folk with some knowledge, and that's krrq.com. That's 95.5, and we have Q at large there. So Saturdays 8 o'clock a.m. krrq.com, Q at large. Sundays 11 o'clock a.m. knek.com, Magic 104.7, the Community Hour. Thursdays, the Keep 'em Talking podcast, each and every Thursday beginning at 6:30. So we're not hard to find. It's up to you, the people. We're just a vessel. I hate to even attempt to speak on behalf of these two gentlemen, but I could tell you that I see a kindred spirit here among us. We're just taking a blessing and a gift that has been given to us. We're sharing it with you. It's going to be up to you how you utilize that and how you take that and share it with others, so that we could grow on some of these issues and some of these dynamics that we've spoken here tonight. I could tell you, I'm like a kid in a candy store. They say I'm the youngest of the three. I don't know. I'm gonna have to double check them birth dates, but I'll receive it. I'll receive it. I'm aging backwards, but all I could tell you is this: is that our calling is greater than us as individuals, and what we do is more for you than you ever know. And Joe has alluded to it. I've been in public office. I've been in media for quite some time now, in one capacity or another. There are going to be offerings and attempts and opportunities put in front of you. And I could tell you the three of us has made decisions to stay loyal and love our community. Unfortunately, There have been others that have chased the big dollars and they have gone a different route. Guess what? God bless them.
Amen.
I wish them well.
Amen.
But for the three of us here today, what you get is what you see. Either you want it or you don't. I'm not going anywhere. I think I could feel the heart and the minds of the two gentlemen who's with me tonight, and I don't think they're going anywhere. This is a calling on their life. And if anyone has ever experienced a calling on your life, you realize as much as you try to run from it or try to go a different direction, it tugs you, it nudges you, it blocks you, it prevents you to do what God has given to you. And that's what we're doing. So thank you very much for tonight. And I hope to see all of you guys soon again in another manner. Thank you. And I love you. God bless.
Brother Fatim.
Brother, I'm resonating off of that. So I'll just mention, first of all, it was an honor to have, when you mentioned this, to have this conversation tonight. And as soon as you start to speak on it, I got quiet because I said it was a lot to be said. Great panel, great discussion tonight. And the things that Brother Kenneth said, I'm not going to just repeat them. He was very profound in what he said. I'm just touched, and I'm touched with how he concluded, because we hear about the story about Jonah and the whale in the Bible. Oof. And about that responsibility. And he touched the nerve right now. You almost brought a tear to my head, to my eyes, because, I was the producer of the show Open Line, where it was Bob Slade, the third answer. We call him the third answer, James Mtume, the musician. But that brother brought it, and attorney Bob Pickett. And when Bob Slade passed, and then Mtume retired, and then Bob Pickett stepped away, I honestly didn't think I could fill those shoes. But there's something that is nudging you, and you realize that sometime you have to pick up that baton. That baton is passed to you. And when that baton is passed to you, you got to go and run with it. So I just feel honored to be amongst giants tonight, both Kenneth and you, Joe. I've seen you working, Joe. I saw Kenneth tonight. He called a good friend. We got a common friend in Roland Martin and other folks out there. So we're just going to continue to work, and we're just going to use this network. I think tonight I felt something I've been trying to do, but I haven't had the opportunity to really push for it. But I think we're creating a network. I think it's coming is coming
Ooh.
together by itself.
Speak.
That
Come
we're
on.
creating a Black informational network
Yes, sir.
that has no boundaries, no rooms. But what we do out here, we're going to share the voice and share information because that's what it's about. It's about the information.
Yes, sir.
So I'll just share this, my platforms, that I do the Sunday morning open line on air with my co-host Jennifer Jones Austin. That's 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on WBLS. That's 107.5 on the dial in the New York region, but WBLS.com. And then after that at 9 Eastern to about 12 noon, we do open line online. And I got a great panel there of Bobby Childs, Jamie Harris, Larry Ham. And there's a dynamic former president of the National Bar Association, Pamela Means Esquire. And then we also come back, which is tomorrow night, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. And tomorrow, of course, we're going to be dealing with, of course, the COVID situation. And that's back on the WBLS Facebook page. And you can get to the WBLS Facebook page by going to Facebook and type in WBLS 1075 NYC, and that'll bring you right there. So that's what keeps me busy. And then, of course, I'm here with Joe every Tuesday night doing this broadcast, which is important for Teen and Joe, community conversations. And then I do the Tangy Tea on Tuesday after this show, and then on Thursday nights, and that's on Facebook as well.
All right, family. Listen, tonight has been inspiring. At the least to see all of us come together. You know, Kenneth said it best. They always send one to get one, and we're gonna make it that every time we go get one, it's gonna be for a positive reason.
Yes, sir.
It's good to see different folks doing the same thing and understanding the assignment and understanding what is being brought to the table by each individual. So I very much thank Brother Boudreaux for coming on as a guest. I'm honored to be with him, not only as a guest on this show, but as a brother in arms against the atrocities that plague our people, not only here, but everywhere. And that is the same way I feel about Brother Fatim. I am blessed to be a brother at arms with this brother, to give the information to our people when they need it, to anything that will come against us, and to everything that will make us better. So with that being said, we're going to wish you all a happy new year in the Deuce or the 2K, as if we playing some 2K basketball. And
2K22.
for you. Hey, so, Kenneth said it best. Make 22 all about you. I say be the best, be you in 22. So either way, we got nothing but love for you. We up out of here. Y'all enjoy this. Share this with a friend. Tell a friend to tell a friend. I'll be back on tomorrow night with Wellness Wednesday, where your mental health matters. Yes, we'll be talking about Antonio Brown and so much more. So just stay locked in. Share this. Be exact like all of us. And we got nothing but love for you. We up out of here. Peace.
Peace.